That afternoon remains clear, as if carved directly into the hard-baked Texas clay. The atmosphere was heavy with barbecue haze and that deep summer warmth, a vibration that settles on the fields like a tune you can never quite place. A decade before, I'd disembarked from a C-130 carrying a bag filled with desert grit and memories. My joints were shot, my spine not much better, but I was determined to create a life that wouldn't shatter. I made a vow to secure a piece of tranquility and claim it, something lasting, something serene. That commitment materialized as 6 acres, shaded by pines, bordering the development known as Whisper Ridge Estates. It was a pre-planned community, the type where every letterbox is identical and the residence board acts like it governs the planet. By that particular holiday weekend, my small parcel had transformed into a place deserving of a toast. I constructed the boundary line with my own hands. Each support was set perfectly, not to keep people out, but to find quiet within. My spouse, Marlene, had sown wildflowers along the perimeter, the sort that reappear without help season after season. The water reflected the emblem I hoisted each May, the national colors, with a marine standard flying just below. That very day, I opted to host a barbecue, not a celebration, but a get-together, a show of gratitude, a reunion for the people who supported me through the difficult nights and the physical pain. By midday, the offset smoker was puffing perfectly. My relative, Ellie, managed the grill, turning steaks while simultaneously wrangling her 2 young sons. My canine, Bandit, was positioned beneath the main table like a shiftless monarch, his tail twitching at every fallen morsel. Children raced over the lawn without shoes, launching foam projectiles as if executing a tactical sweep. My boy, Luke, was near the water, arranging collapsible seating by the hearth beneath the 2 banners. His expression was illuminated by the daylight and a specific satisfaction I hadn't witnessed since he received his diploma. Soon, the former unit began to arrive. Guys who had experienced the same arid landscapes I knew. Dax was first, hauling an ice chest of local beer and sporting a smile that could slice through the haze. Following him, lanky Harland, holding a platter of beef he'd tended to all night. Then Big Joe, who kept the nickname despite shedding significant weight post-service. They arrived with portable seats, crude humor, and that particular quiet which communicates far more than speech. By 4 p.m., the scene was ideal. Luke was offering a brief speech honoring my return. My spouse was next to me with a tray of corn muffins, and the aroma of embers and herbs filled the atmosphere. I felt rooted, secure, enveloped in amusement and the familiar rhythm of my sanctuary. That's when I heard it, the subtle snap of a latch. It originated from the property's edge, not the main entrance. No rap, no shout, no alert, just the metallic cry of a hinge unknown to any of my guests. 3 individuals stepped out from the woods, clad in high-visibility yellow jackets emblazoned with HOA compliance team in severe black text, as if they were a government agency. They strode directly onto my grass, slicing through the good humor like a sour note. Leading was Catherine Hale, the self-designated monarch of Whisper Ridge. In her mid-50s, with immaculate hair, she held a clipboard and wore a grin that seemed professionally affixed. Her spouse, Ronnie, waddled after, swelling in a safety jacket far too snug, surveying my land as though it were a high-security vault. Behind them was Paul Benton, their retained lawyer, gripping documents as if they granted him genuine power. They bypassed the entrance. They made no announcement. They continued their advance until they were positioned centrally on my lawn, directly separating the smoker from my relatives. Catherine audibly prepared to speak, using a voice I suspect she rehearses. "Mr. Ward, we have been notified you are holding an event with more than 12 attendees. This is categorized as a mass gathering per Whisper Ridge Statute 4.1. I paused, not from confusion, but because I was uncertain how to reply without expanding my son's vocabulary. At last, I stated, I do not belong to your association. This property is private. That boundary defines your territory, not my limitations." Catherine beamed, the sort of expression indicating you're being pitched a product you currently possess. "We recognize that, from a technical standpoint, you are not subject to the agreement," she stated. "Nonetheless, your water feature can be seen from inside the neighborhood limits." Multiple homeowners have voiced apprehension. Their kids can view it. They've inquired about their inability to access it. She scanned the area as if planning modifications. We want to propose a concession. Restricted entry for association-sanctioned functions, cookouts, seasonal mixers. In exchange, we will support your ongoing access to the footpath that runs along your land. My spouse's grip clenched my arm. From behind, a voice whispered, "What in God's name did she just utter?" I stared at Catherine. "You're proposing to not obstruct a common path I've walked for a decade, provided I allow you to hold functions on my property." Catherine dipped her head once, pleased. "It would be advantageous for both parties. The appearance of working together matters." I inhaled slowly, sensing an anger unrelated to the smoker. "You are on my land without permission," I said softly. "You must go." Before a reply came, a distinct pop sliced the quiet. The noise of an aluminum can being pulled. It was from my six. Dax moved up, dressed in a worn-out sleeveless service shirt, his facial mark reflecting the light like liquid steel. "You truly just marched onto this land, brandishing documents and intimidation, on a vet's estate during a private reunion?" His tone was even, yet it carried a gravity that made Ronnie's safety jacket seem suddenly flimsy. Catherine tensed. "This has nothing to do with that." Dax interrupted her. "It has everything to do with that. You invaded private property. You disturbed children. You menaced a guy who has given more to this nation than your entire association put together." Near the smoker, Big Joe laughed. "Yeah, tell her about Iraq, Dax." The residents there were more polite. Catherine's expression blanched. She looked toward her attorney, but Paul merely fiddled with his spectacles and jotted a pointless note on his pad. Then Harland, reserved as ever, moved to my side. "You speak of concessions, We dedicated years to understanding that term. A few of us left parts of our bodies in the desert just so folks like you could enjoy your neat yards and neighborhood updates. Don't come here and label extortion a concession." The silence was absolute. The children paused their play. Catherine's jaw worked, but no sound emerged. I signaled to my spouse. She guided the kids near the water. I advanced until just a short distance separated us. "This is for documentation," I stated, activating my device's recording function. "Are you confirming a request for entry to my personal land for association functions?" She wavered, then replied, within a sensible framework, "Yes." "Appreciated," I said. "That's sufficient." It was then that fate opted to inject some humor. Paul's dress shoe snagged the patio's rim, sending him sprawling onto the lawn. His mobile device flew into the water, making a clean splash. Catherine pivoted to assist, snagged her pump in the stones, and shed her footwear. Ronnie lunged to grab her, lost his balance, and rolled down the steps like a bag of feed. For a moment, stillness reigned. Then Dax lifted his drink. "Hair," he noted. "That was cleaner than Iraq." The amusement shattered the tension instantly. Catherine regained her composure, missing one heel, hair disordered, and retreated to the woods, gripping her device as if for protection. Ronnie staggered behind, gasping, while hapless Paul remained by the water's edge, submerged to his elbow in silt. Later, when the company was gone and the hearth was embers, I joined Marlene on the veranda. She handed me a glass, observing, "They will return." I agreed. "I'm aware. Individuals such as Catherine don't withdraw. They rearm." Precisely as expected, a formal letter was delivered the following day. 5 pages, bearing the Whisper Ridge insignia. The language was civil, but the content was hostile. I was blamed for causing a disruption, erecting unauthorized buildings, threatening neighborhood spirit, and running an unpermitted firearm facility a surprise, as the only thing discharged that weekend was the barbecue. They insisted on architectural drawings of my property, the removal of my pavilion, and weekend entry to the water. A 1-week deadline was given before legal action. Marlene slammed her mug onto the table, making it jump. "They are completely insane." I offered a weary, slow grin. "No, they merely selected the incorrect service member." I moved to my study, retrieving a large container marked property and permits. It held every document from my purchase. Within were the initial plot blueprints from decades ago, the transfer document from the prior owner, a Vietnam veteran, and all the paperwork I had submitted. I arranged them on the desk like a tactical map. Each document was ammunition. Next, I phoned Mark Hanley, a nearby lawyer and brother-in-arms who assisted with the original closing. After I explained the situation, he whistled softly. They genuinely attempted to strong-arm you for your water access. Correct. And now they're painting me as a danger to society. Mark chuckled. They will soon regret not bringing baked goods instead of intimidation. By midday, we had composed a formal stop harassing notice. It listed an authorized entry, attempted extortion, and slander. We advised that further pestering would result in a lawsuit via the state's anti-SLAPP statute, a law protecting against weaponized litigation. I mailed it formally, and for good measure, included the sound file of Catherine stating her concession. That evening, a sheriff's deputy contacted me. She truly uttered that on tape, he inquired, having heard the file. Documented and dated, I confirmed. He laughed. My goodness, you have an airtight case. Best of luck. The association, however, persisted. 2 days passed, and another call came. This one originated from the county's Veteran Services Office. Mr. Ward, the speaker began cautiously, we have obtained information indicating you might be undergoing psychological difficulty tied to your service, potentially creating a hazard to others. I shut my eyes. Let me venture, I replied, this information originated at Whisper Ridge. I cannot officially verify that, he answered, his voice gentling, but, correct. Within 2 hours, Officer Leon, an Army veteran, arrived. He was courteous, methodical, and visibly uneasy. We spoke on the veranda for 60 minutes. I presented my VA documentation, my licenses, and the footage of the uninvited visit. Upon concluding, he exhaled, completed his paperwork, and stated, "You are okay, Mr. Ward. This allegation is trash. I am marking it as vindictive." I expressed my gratitude. After his departure, I understood the HOA's true objective. It wasn't my property, it was my reputation. They aimed to portray me as erratic, hazardous, and unsuitable. Lacking a victory through regulations, they resorted to gossip. That was the instant I shifted from defense to offense. The following day, I contacted Sarah McNeil, a journalist whose spouse was a Marine. She was known for exposing association abuses. I gave her the full story. She arrived that same day with a videographer and a smile. We recorded near the pavilion, the banner fluttering in the background, with Bandit resting near my boots. I recounted the entire narrative, the intrusion, the intimidation, the correspondence, and the psychological ploy. Her segment ran that evening, titled, "Association Attempts Land Grab, Then Defames Veteran." The reaction was immediate. By dawn, social media was ablaze with tags. #HO Overreach. #Leave him alone. #Semper Fi. Service organizations reached out. Attorneys volunteered assistance, and a congressional staffer inquired if I wished to set a precedent. Catherine's counter was a leaflet. Within 48 hours, every resident in Whisper Ridge received it. The headline blared, "Is our neighbor a danger?" Underneath was a catalogue of worries. Loud weapons discharge. I punch holes in paper monthly. Militaristic assemblies. A barbecue. Liquor use. 3 bottles, maximum. Non-compliance with neighborhood leaders. Guilty as charged. It was attributed to worried homeowners of Whisper Ridge, which meant Catherine and Ronnie. I digitized it, shared it publicly, and wrote, "Seems I'm a solo paramilitary force. Who is bringing snacks to the next strategic briefing?" It had 20,000 shares by 12 a.m. 3 board members contacted me directly to say sorry. The momentum had shifted, but aggressors seldom surrender easily. A fortnight later, the association served me with a lawsuit. The requests were absurd: mandated entry to my water, destruction of unapproved buildings, compensation for the emotional distress their team endured while trespassing, and an end to militarized social functions viewable from their properties. I poured a drink, chuckled, and phoned Mark. They literally wrote militarized social functions. He exhaled. They are trying anything and everything. Let's ensure nothing is successful. The initial proceeding was public. News traveled quickly. Upon entering the chamber, I saw the seats were occupied. Locals, journalists, and some former service members in the rear rows, positioned like they were securing a perimeter. On the other side sat Catherine, attired as if for a formal fundraiser. Ronnie sported a bandage, maximizing the sympathy from his fall, and Paul appeared exhausted, as if sleepless since his device sank. They began their argument, his hostility, his assemblies, his alleged instability. Paul then rose, stating, "It is our contention that Mr. Ward's service background and mental pressures could impair his capacity to handle stressful interactions." Mark was standing before the judge reacted. "Objection, slanderous and without foundation." The magistrate, a perceptive woman with a percussive voice, fixed her stare. "Counsel, do you possess any clinical evidence validating that assertion?" Paul faltered. "No, Your Honor, however." "Then it is stricken," she declared. "And tread carefully, Mr. Benton." Catherine moved uneasily, her forced grin at last fading. Next were our testimonies. The municipal compliance officer testified initially, verifying all licenses were in order and all construction was sound. Following him was Officer Leon from Veteran Services. He presented his findings verbatim. Mr. Ward was polite, helpful, and psychologically stable. The allegation seems vindictive. Finally, our key witness, Colonel Richard Voss, USMC, retired, my former CO. As he entered, the chamber quieted. Mark inquired, "Colonel, based on your expert assessment, does Mr. Ward represent a danger to his community?" The colonel faced the bench directly. "If Ben Ward is a danger," he stated, "then I'm a live explosive. This individual remained composed during artillery attacks. He is why 50% of my unit returned. He is the exact neighbor you hope for, controlled, honorable, and exceptionally patient. Honestly, Your Honor, the only hazard present is the association's poor discretion." The room filled with stifled chuckles. The magistrate herself smiled. Following summations, she announced a break. Beyond the doors, a small group held placards. "This property is his and don't antagonize Marines." Journalists shouted inquiries, but I simply held up a hand and continued. I had no need to speak. The facts were already making enough noise. When the ruling was scheduled a week past, the media focus had shifted, but the important individuals were present. My spouse was next to me, Luke on the same row. Dax and the guys were at the rear, arms folded, quiet as guards. Catherine was the last to enter, attired modestly now, a sweater, a gentle tone, projecting a practiced modesty. Nobody was deceived. The magistrate opened her file. "This court has assessed all evidence and statements concerning the case of Whisper Ridge HOA against Benjamin Ward." She stopped. The atmosphere became static. To utilize bureaucratic intimidation and character assassination to secure access to personal land beyond association control is not just improper, it verges on illegal. Every claim by the HOA is hereby rejected, with prejudice. The association is ordered to pay Mr. Ward $25,000 for damages and $75,000 in penalties for abuse of power and vindictive action. Additionally, Mr. Ward's land is forever shielded from any association governance. I made no sound, offered no grin. I just breathed out, truly, after many weeks. Catherine showed no tears. She remained still, ashen, like a person grasping that her self-appointed title was worthless. Within 48 hours, she stepped down, citing private matters. Paul was reported to the Legal Ethics Board. Ronnie vanished. The association named a new leader, Tamara Hughes, an educator, mild-mannered and sincere. She visited one afternoon, bringing a loaf of banana bread. That situation was unjust. I needed to express my regrets as a fellow resident. I accepted her gratitude and the food, but did not ask her inside. Too soon. Tranquility requires patience. Several weeks passed. The serenity I had battled for eventually returned to the property. The insects droned. The water glittered. Bandit napped by the swing. No mail, no intimidation, No association, only the whisper of the breeze in the trees and the sound of the barbecue. Then, one dusk, as the light turned golden along the boundary, I phoned Dax and Harland. "Grab your equipment and some beers," I instructed. "We're making something." We passed the hours etching and sealing a weathered cypress plank, searing the words into the wood. Once finished, we affixed it to the main entrance: "Personal property, vet-owned. Intruders will discover the meaning of Semper Fi. Below, in finer script, "Guarded by Liberty and Marines." Luke assisted in hanging it. He inquired if the last part was humor. I replied, "Just to anyone foolish enough to challenge it." Harland produced a compact sensor from his vehicle and installed it over the entrance. "An alert system," he noted with a smile. "If someone gets near, it blares the Star-Spangled Banner at maximum volume, followed by commands in Arabic." We roared with laughter. As darkness fell, we remained on the veranda, drinks in hand, observing the banner move in the twilight. Marlene rested her head on my arm. For the first time in ages, the quiet wasn't hollow. It was deserved. Not all conflicts occur overseas. Many unfold right here, on lawns and driveways, against individuals who confuse authority with principle. Yet, on occasion, if you maintain your position and your wit, the righteous side still prevails. Therefore, if you've encountered a resident or an association that tried to dictate your existence, share your narrative in the comments. Do you believe the HOA received its due, or did I escalate too much? I will be reviewing every response, likely from this very spot, observing that placard shine in the night, anticipating the next idiot who believes a notepad can best a service member. Because on this ground, my ground, it won't.